Hello and good evening, everyone. So, welcome to today's webinar about opportunities in the midst of COVID-19 pandemic. And again, my name is Phil. I'm one of the customer relations person of ChicagoDealVault. And unfortunately, Hugo will not be able to join us today, but we are honored to have with us attorney Gary Davidson. So Gary represents hundreds of property investors and represents wide variety of businesses and contractors and corporate affairs. He is also an experienced lawyer and the owner of CASHFLOW. So hello, Gary. Good evening to you.
Hey, how you doing, Phil?
I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you going to do a little pitch on DealVault, or do you want me to just dive into the content?
Oh, yeah. Please do take over the floor now so I can speak after.
Okay. Okay, no problem. So I've spoken to this group a half a dozen, probably a dozen times by now. I'm going to take a little bit different approach on the topic that Hugo sent out, which is opportunities in the midst of COVID-19. And I'm going to speak a little bit more about opportunities in the aftermath of COVID-19. Now, I recognize that we're potentially diving into, another mask mandate and things of this nature, but I think we're on the opposite side of this, and while we might have a few setbacks, we really need to start putting ourselves in a position to determine what is going to be the edge, what's going to provide us with the correct levels of insights to take advantage of various equilibrium shifts in the market in a post-COVID economy. So as Phil mentioned, I own CASHFLOW. I represent a lot of hedge funds, private equity groups, family offices. We do a lot of securities for real estate investors. I represent publicly traded companies from ExxonMobil all the way to smaller investors. Most recently, I am a non-compensated Uber driver for my son, traveling all over the country for lacrosse. So people like Lisa, who's listening tonight, has suffered the consequences of that a little bit with my lack of availability. But I do have 15 lawyers that work for me, and I have actually been on a conference call with one of my hedge funds out in New York yesterday, and we were talking about these deep topics of economic equilibrium and inflation. So I'm going to dive somewhat deep, but it's extremely important for you to all understand that because the United States economy kind of hangs and falls on real estate, we have to understand that in the world of economics, the equilibrium of the real estate market, which deals with supply and demand, are crucially important. So the term equilibrium really means when supply and demand are equal. So if this was a lake, the water would be totally calm, there wouldn't be any waves. Now, what is going on in the economy right now? Well, the number of items for sale is less than the number of items that are in demand. So equilibrium in simple terms would mean that the number of items for sale and the number of people who wanted to buy them would be equivalent. We have something that is out of equilibrium, and that's called a disequilibrium. And one of the possible causes of a disequilibrium is inflation. Now, I am not Nostradamus, but I've been through this. I've been practicing law for over 25 years, and I've seen what happened. A lot of my high net worth people who took advantage of the 2006 market collapse, and a lot of my clients who were harmed by the 2006 market collapse got caught in this period of inflation, or what could in this country become hyperinflation. And when this equilibrium occurs, when prices for goods and services, in our case, we're discussing real estate, those prices go up significantly. And what causes those prices to go up significantly? One, we have historically low interest rates. Now, everyone says to avoid talking politics, but much like anything else, in order to really understand what's going on, we have to be able to face the fact of talking politics, and we have to use terms that can be highly offensive to people. Terms like Donald Trump. Well, Donald Trump, while many people criticize him, he's a master of working the economy. He had our economy humming. But he artificially was having that economy humming because it was his only opportunity to get reelected, because he kept the Federal Reserve, heavy pressure on the Federal Reserve to keep interest rates down so that we could have that very healthy, robust, growing economy. But what we know is that economy is being held up by toothpicks. PPP is causing that, this huge influx of government printed money. So the net result of inflation is a decline in purchasing power of your money. Does any of that sound familiar? A decline in purchase. How many people, it is so incredibly difficult to find really good properties because they're getting bid up. Why? Because people have more purchasing power. So something that may have cost 50 cents a year and a half ago costs $1.75 now. Seeing increasing in gas prices. In inflation, people start to hoard goods. Gosh, hoarding goods. Does that sound familiar? We had a rush on the grocery stores. People were buying toilet paper because of this artificial thing that occurred, which is COVID, right? So hyperinflation is even different than actual inflation, and hyperinflation is potentially what the United States is going into. It's inflation on steroids. So that means the item that was $1 may be like $50 tomorrow. Well, what do we see in the housing market? Stuff we haven't seen ever in the history. 25 years I've been doing this. Every single day I have contracts. People are waiving appraisals. People are paying $40,000, $50,000 more than list price. Bidding wars. We've never seen this before. Hyperinflation only happens under very, very unique and special circumstances. It happens when currency breaks up. The EU, the EU money, that happened. After wars, when fiscal authorities lose control, or in cases like COVID, right? Because we had the government print a bunch of money and gave it to people without any strings attached. Billions of dollars went out, and what does billions of dollars out in the market do? It causes prices to increase. Now, I can't suggest that I just happen to know this off the top of my head. I was flying back from San Francisco and I was reading about this, and I wanted to share with you one of the most striking examples of when hyperinflation existed. And if you stop and think about it, how we can relate that to what is actually currently happening in the United States. And when I get done with all this background, then I'm going to tell you how each one of you can get that edge and competitive advantage and sharing with you the insider secrets from these conversations that I'm having with my hedge funds that I represent. One of the best examples of hyperinflation is following World War I, Republic of Germany. They were attempting to pay war reparations and grow their economy at the same time. Let's substitute the term war reparations for PPP money. So the German government prints so much money and puts so much money on a street that a huge gap was created between supply and demand. Well, what's going on with low interest rates, consumers having much more confidence, much more money? There's a huge gap between housing supply and housing demand. That resulted in an inflation rate of 322% in Germany. Now, parenthetically, just so you know, we run in the United States about 1 to 1.25% inflation every year. It takes into account gross domestic product, things of that nature. That's stuff that you can look up on your own. But think about the difference between, like, say, a normal inflation of 1.5 to 2%, and say hyperinflation of, say, 1,000% based on like what is just basically the CPI, or what's called the Consumer Price Index. So if you had hyperinflation in the United States, in 2020, a cup of coffee, let's just say it's $2, right? Well, what happens in 2022 if we have 1,000% hyperinflation? That same cup of coffee is $22. Gallon of milk, $3.50. Let's say same gallon of milk in 2022 is $38.55. How about, let's talk about real estate. 2-bedroom apartment in the city, $2,000. Hyperinflation, $22,000. So there's two main causes of inflation. One's cost push and one's demand pull. What we have right now is what's called demand pull inflation. Demand pull inflation happens when supply is limited compared to demand. So demand goes up based on a strong economy. That's what Trump produced. He produced a massively strong economy. You know, he may be a crazy person. He may be eccentric. The guy's not stupid. He knew how to manage an economy. Maybe he pissed a lot of people off, but the economy was good. And he was working that because he knows it so well. So he created this demand pull inflation because he knew that was his only path to getting reelected. So demand goes up based on that strong economy. So an oversupply of money, that causes that inflation. Any sort of disasters, so COVID-19, that demand has outpaced supply. And so that's why it's called demand pull, because the demand outpaces supply, demand pulls prices higher. Okay, so what does that all mean to all of us? It really means that what's going to happen is at some point the chickens are going to come home to roost. We're gonna drive the car off the cliff. Now, everybody's prognosticating this different. Do I think that we're gonna have 1,000% inflation in the United States? Absolutely not. Do I think it's 500? No. Do I think it's 200? No. Do I think it's 100? No. Do I think it could be 20%? Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And 20% will have a massive, massive shift. So what does that mean for opportunities post-COVID? What does this all mean to you? And the reason I went, just before I dive into what this all means to you and how you take advantage of this, the reason I went into all of these things is because real estate is not a spectator sport. It is a full contact sport where you have the smartest people in the world that are involved in it. So if you think for a second that you can do this as an armchair quarterback and not have your shit spot on with your numbers, and you go into this with a half-baked plan and you run 1,000 miles an hour in no particular direction, I can tell you, representing a vast majority of investors in the Chicagoland area, that you will fail. However, if you do this properly, you can create a life worth living, a legacy worth leaving, a career worth having, a business worth owning. You can create that residual income. But real estate is not something that creates passive income. Everyone talks about passive income. Everyone says, oh, it's passive income. I want to have, the money. I'm just going to buy 10 properties and I'm going to have $1,000 a month. It's hard work, guys. It's a lot of hard work. So if you want more than the rest, you have to work harder than the rest. So what are these opportunities that Gary Davidson is describing, that the guys from New York and my clients from China and my clients from the UK and Canada and all over the world? I've got clients from Kenya. They're the largest, actually they're all over Africa. They're an engineering company called Bernai Engineering, and they're doing power plants all throughout Africa. And I represent them on their real estate holdings here in the United States. And what are these guys that are all smarter than all of us? The ones that got 35 and 36s on their ACTs. I got a 23. What are they doing? What are they saying? What are they thinking? Well, one of the things that the hedge funds are doing is they're mobilizing now, and they're getting liquid to buy real estate in 2022 and 2023, because they're going to look for these shifts in the economy. So we have about 20 months straight of the inability of banks to file foreclosure proceedings. We have millions of properties that are in a state of delinquency, yet the banks have been prevented from filing the foreclosures. And because of political pandering to special interest groups, Congress has tried to continue to push that day of reckoning off, which will only make matters worse, yet create greater opportunities for investors. Because as supply increases, prices decrease. So we have tens of millions of properties that are in foreclosure. What types of things are we going to be able to do? Well, short sales are going to be at an all-time high. What is a short sale? A short sale is simply when the bank accepts less than the mortgage amount in satisfaction of the debt. So a short sale occurs when a person can prove that they neither have the money nor have a foreseeable opportunity to ever be able to repay the bank. Because people think of the banks as these nameless, faceless people, but they're shareholders and they're only going to accept less than what they're owed if you can not only prove that you don't currently have the money, and you will likely never have the money to pay the bank back. So as the eviction moratoriums and the foreclosure moratoriums open up, there is going to be a huge opportunity for short sales. Now, a few things about short sales. One, the person has to be delinquent on their mortgage for a minimum of 91 days. Two, the property has to be listed on the MLS, and it has to be listed for a sufficient period of time such that you can get an arm's length offer that tests the market to get the bank the highest and best. The bank is going to require a BPO, broker's price opinion, same as appraisal, similar to an appraisal. So you can't go out and just find somebody and bring them to me and say, I want to buy this short sale. This is going to have to be given to a realtor. They're going to have to list it. There's ways that we can assist you in getting it to the right broker so that you have the greatest opportunity to be able to have your bid accepted. But they have to entertain all offers, and the client has to accept the best offer. But there's different strategic ways that we can do that. For you, when a bank begins a foreclosure proceeding, they file what's called a notice of lis pendens. What a notice of lis pendens is a fancy legal term, meaning that the bank is telling everybody in the world that there is a court action pending and that they have an interest in the property that they are foreclosing on. That notice of lis pendens is filed at the beginning of a foreclosure proceeding. Some people refer to this as pre-foreclosure. It's really not. It's actually the beginning of foreclosure. Pre-foreclosure is really a term that is not a real term, other than perhaps if somebody's in default of their mortgage and they haven't had a foreclosure proceeding filed, then in essence we're all in pre-foreclosure. Some of us are just closer to foreclosure than others. But that notice of lis pendens is a public record. You're able to get this information, I believe, from ChicagoDealVault by being a subscribed member. There's also ways to get it even quicker that I can share with you at a later time. Questions are free, answers cost money. And that's a lawyer joke, by the way. But there is a way to get that information almost instantaneously. But a lot of times people will do mailings to the pre-foreclosures. Lis pendens. Now I'm using the term pre-foreclosure. A lot of times people will reach out to the people who have a lis pendens filed because you're getting them at the beginning of the process. Once the property has gone through the foreclosure proceeding, a judgment of foreclosure is entered, there's a 6-month redemption period if it's an owner occupied, and it's set for sheriff's sale. A lot of times we'll get these at this time. Once it's set for sheriff's sale, it's really many times too late for us to pull that out from the ashes, because we just simply don't have enough time to get the short sale approved. I have a staff member, Steve Becker, who he only gets paid if the short sale gets approved. He gets the short sales approved in 75 or 90 days. So a lot of you have probably heard horror stories about short sales and how long they take. And I like to talk about McDonald's and delivering consistent product consistently. The reason that short sales take a long time is because all of us have, 5 or 6 things on our desk that are a pain in our ass, or, we need to set aside an hour of time to look at, and we can't just push out. So when these small offices, and 80% of the attorneys in the Chicagoland area are solo or small firm practitioners, their paralegals are overworked and underpaid, so that the short sale becomes that 5 files that are just a pain in the ass, and they never get around to dealing with it because they're just too busy cranking out widgets every day. Same thing for the realtors that negotiate short sales. But what I've done is I adopted Gary Keller's one thing principle. So if you want to read a book, you might want to consider reading that. It's called The One Thing by Gary Keller. And that is, what's the one thing such that if we do it, everything else will become easier or unnecessary? And that's a very deep thought. But again, I'll repeat it. What's the one thing you can do such that if you do it, everything else will become easier or unnecessary? It's kind of like the phrase, how do you How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You got to break things down and you focus on one thing that if you did it, your entire business would be easier. So when I did that same thing with short sales. I had a person that's a dedicated staff person. The only way he gets compensated is if the short sale gets approved. So he's in the same boat as me. He's in the same boat as you. You don't make any money if you don't close a deal. I don't make any money if I don't close a deal. He doesn't make any money if he closes a deal. So all day, every day, he wakes up in the morning, he has to get short sales approved. That's the only thing he's focused on. One thing. And so we've taken that time frame and we've broken it down, because what I found is that the reason that things take 6 months and 9 months is because 45 and 60 days would go by before these files got touched. And in the world of negotiating with banks, just like everything else in the world, the loudest boos get oftentimes heard, and squeaky wheel gets the grease. So you have to just be constantly, have you got a response? Have you got a response? Have you got a response? Till finally you become such a pain in the ass that they want to get rid of you. So mailing to this huge opportunity for short sales. Now you're going to piss my buddy Ryan Smith off, because when you buy these short sales, he's not going to get the listings. For those of you who don't know Ryan Smith is the #1 REO agent in Illinois with Remax in Western Springs. Very, very good friend of mine. But you're going to leapfrog ahead of him and maybe get that short sale prior to that property being foreclosed on. Another thing about short sales, and I'm saying all of this stuff in no particular order because I didn't take any notes, and oftentimes when I get on these, I just ramble. People don't recognize that you don't contract, or you're not buying the property from the bank. The bank is not the owner of the property because it's a short sale. So a short sale, you're buying from the owner of the property, and that party who is in foreclosure is attempting to get the bank to accept less, such that the bank doesn't have to go through the whole process of foreclosure. So even if the seller, let's just use an example, property has a mortgage for $100,500, you offer $100,000, the seller accepts. Well, just because the seller accepted it, it's a two-step process. The seller has to accept your offer, but then it has to go to the bank, and the bank has to approve selling the property for $100,000, because if the bank has a $150,000 mortgage and the offer is $100,000, that means that the bank's net is going to be, I don't know, let's call it $85,000, maybe $90,000, because we got to put in taxes and tax prorations to the buyer, real estate commissions, closing costs, all of that stuff costs money. So it's $10,000 to $15,000. So the bank's got to say, hey, we're willing to take, we gave $150,000 and we're willing to accept $85,000, or more clearly, we're willing to take a $65,000 loss on this property. And unlike conventional wisdom in this world in 2021, where Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer think that they just go over to the Federal Reserve and start the printing presses and print money. This is real money. Like a bank with a shareholder that are people like you and I. If you have an investment account at Northwestern Mutual and you're invested in large cap, like that's our money. And they're not just going to simply accept a $65,000 loss. Okay, so so we have to prove that short sale. Now, a short sale is not something that has to be in foreclosure, by the way. Again, the criteria is 91 days, have to be listed on MLS, and we have to prove some sort of a hardship that the seller currently doesn't have the ability to repay and likely will not have the ability to repay in the future. Second big opportunity during COVID, and I'm going to talk for another maybe 10 minutes. That'll put us at 7:15. A lot of you people haven't stopped dropping yet, so if I start to see people drop, I'll finish. That'll put us at 7:15. We can have 5-10 minutes of questions if there are any, and then Phil can do his Chicago DealVault thing, and we'll be at 7:30, and we can all go. I guess we can't watch the Olympics because they're over. REO inventory, another big opportunity. Right now, you look at Ryan's stuff, you look at all the different REO broker stuff. I mean, it's going for retail. I mean, there's really no deals on the REO market, really very much. I mean, Ryan, he sticks it on. It's going way over asking. But when that inventory hits, it's going to be a huge opportunity for REO. When is the REO going to come? REO is not going to come until late fall of 2022. That's when it's really going to first start hitting, because it takes for an owner occupant, it's going to take anywhere from 6 to 12 months to get through the process in normal times. Now we have a backlog. The one thing we can count on, government isn't going to move any faster. The judges aren't going to work any longer. The bailiffs aren't going to work overtime. They're still going to come in at 9, take an hour and a half lunch, and leave at 3. So we have this huge backlog. So it's going to take, probably 12 to 36 months to get through the process. But a lot of people won't show up for court. They'll get defaulted. So those ones that, are a little more lazy and they don't fight it, and they don't hire a foreclosure defense attorney, those will start funneling through in the fall of 2022. Here's another thing that I'm going to predict, and here's a nice resource for people to buy properties, other investors. So the animal kingdom survives when you start looking around and eating your own. And I've seen this ship sail before, and I don't wish this on anyone. But there's a lot of leverage being taught in groups. The burst strategy is a great strategy. Buy, refinance. But what happens when you buy, you rehab, and what Gary's saying is going to happen happens, which is massive inflation and prices decrease. Well, if you are an investor that cashed in your 401k and put all your money on black and spun the wheel, and you now have finished your rehab, and your after rehab value was supposed to be 200 and it's now 120. This all happened in 2006, guys. Where are you? And what happens when 3-year tenants stop paying? So over leverage, which is what all of my hedge funds are counting on, because they've got billions of dollars, and the rest of us normal people, right, don't. The average investor in the Chicagoland area is over leveraged. And if you get caught, I feel like I'm being very negative and sour tonight, but this is reality, guys. If you get caught when that turns, it's going to be rough, because you're not going to be able to pull your money out, and then you're going to be stuck. So just be very, very careful. However, there's going to be a lot of people that aren't being conservative, and people were riding that wave. People were making so much money. They're making so much money because inflation numbers were going up so fast. They could buy something for 100 and they would, in 6 months, they would sell it for 100 and a half, 160,000. People are doing that now with primary residences. They bought it, 2 years ago for 200 and they're selling it today for 350. But what goes up must come down. So other investors are going to be a huge opportunity. And we can use strategies like subject to, wraparound mortgages, contract for deeds. So I'm not going to get into all those things because we're at 7:08, but you guys can look those terms up. Contract for deed, it's otherwise known as articles of agreement for deed or land sale contract. All those terms are used interchangeably. Wraparound mortgages, lease options, all of those things are opportunities where you can help people get out of properties and then resell them on a contract for deed and basically make a gap. So if they have a principal, interest, tax, and insurance payment of $1,500, you can buy it subject to and maybe lease the property for $1,800. You have $300 of cash flow, and you're getting that person out of their situation. We've seen a lot of things that make us believe that inflation is coming, potentially hyperinflation. We've seen hoarding of goods. We've seen low interest rates. We've seen a situation that I haven't seen even in 2006 where supply is way, way, way out of whack, a total disequilibrium from demand. Demand is off the charts, and that's fueled by the government funneling billions of dollars into our economy. All the PPP money, the Republicans and Democrats are both to blame for this. Okay? And that's what happens. And those are what you need to be considering when we go into the fall of 21 here and into 2022 of those different strategies to locate the properties. Number one easiest one for Chicago DealVault folks, because you guys are not going to be a hedge fund. Hedge fund guys aren't listening to me right now at 7:10. That's an easy way to find properties and use the resources that you already have that Phil and Hugo have assembled with Chicago DealVault, all the different resources to locate those off-market opportunities. And here's the other beautiful thing. I'm sure there's some wholesalers on here. Wholesalers are very, very relevant now, but I've seen this before too. Wholesalers are going to be much, much, much less relevant in 2022 and 2023. The reason wholesalers are relevant right now is because what? There's no supply. So there's a high demand. Once there's supply, wholesalers aren't needed because we have other ways to fuel and purchase our properties. If you want to be a wholesaler, if you do wholesaling, I do more double closings and assignment deals than any attorney in Illinois. I'm glad to help you with that. My why is to help people try to grow and scale their business. I like having success through others. I like to instill on people who are starting their real estate journey that you need to have a big mindset and you need to shift your mindset and focus on relationships and focus on partnerships. And don't think of your home inspector, your contractor, your attorney, your mortgage broker as vendors. Think of them as partners. And partners have an obligation, a mutual obligation to each other that's much greater than simply price. And have success through others, and I'll leave you with this. I feel very fortunate. My father was an assembly line worker at Caterpillar. My mom was a secretary. My dad was on strike most of the 80s. By no means do anybody have to pass the offering plate for me. I mean, I had a marvelous childhood, but we didn't have any money. And one of the things that I learned is every day I have a list of 10 people, and I focus my attention on helping 10 other people with whatever they may need. And I represent a lot of different types of businesses, restaurant groups, etc. And I spend a time block, 2 hours a day, to spend driving business or helping those people in some way. Because what I have found is that if I spend every day getting up and being self-serving, that I can't achieve the sort of success that I achieve through others. Because if I help 10 people, those 10 people can spend far more time helping me than if I just acted in a self-serving fashion. So investors, oftentimes you're trained like lowest price for this, beat your contractors up, beat this guy up, beat that guy up. People you get more with honey than vinegar. And the people that are really, really good and have those connections, they're not going to react well to that. So build partnerships with people. I don't care who it is. I don't care, if it's the lowest level, if it's the pooper scooper, you never know. Treat people with respect. And finally, in this business, because I have 60 seconds, I gave myself till 7:15. In this business, our integrity is all we have. So when we're buying real estate, we have a fiduciary obligation to a lot of people. And oftentimes we are dealing with distressed sellers. And it is critically important. This is not a video game. When you make an offer to purchase somebody's property that's in a short sale, or when you go door knocking, or when you're putting up your bandit signs and we say we buy houses, somebody has stage 4 cancer. Somebody's going to lose their house. Somebody's going to file bankruptcy. And when you tell that person that you're going to close on their house cash in 30 days, and you put that contract in front of them, and you know that you don't have the cash, and you know that if you don't find another buyer, you can't close, after you have that conversation with them, I want you to go in the mirror and look at yourself in the mirror and decide if that's the right way to do things. So very, very important. We're messing with people's lives, and it can be very fulfilling and very gratifying because we're helping a tremendous amount of people. We're creating millionaires every single day through real estate, and we're helping people that otherwise would be losing their house to foreclosure. But remember that obligation is with you and the seriousness with which you need to take it. All right, I'm done. It's 7:15. If you have questions for me, turn your mic off and yell them out. I'll take questions for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to give Phil 5. If you don't have any questions, but you might have questions later, you might want to reconsider because later costs money. So you have 10 minutes to ask me free questions. Tomorrow they cost money. Sam, I knew I'd get somebody for that.
Good evening. My name is Sam. I'm a real estate broker for the last 20 years. I want to thank you for nice and valuable presentation. I agree with you 100% on the hyperinflation. As a sample, I was in Menard yesterday to buy a filter for my furnace that I normally buy it for $1.99, but it was $7.99. And I was in shock for 10 seconds. What happened? Is it the end of the world? But I had no choice. I bought it. There was no special, nothing going on. But I have a couple of quick questions.
Sam, real quick. When you saw that filter for $7.99, did you start to think or question yourself, gee, maybe I should have bought 5 cases of these for $3.99. So that kind of mindset gets going. So that I just want to impress upon the group, so Sam starts thinking in other ways like, oh shit, maybe I should buy, 20 packs of toilet paper now. So that's what happens. And this is like what causes this hyperinflation to occur, because you got nervous because you saw $7.99. So it may cause you to react differently and hoard, which causes more hyperinflation. Sorry, keep going.
Correct. Yes, but no, I'm not the hoarding. I'm not buying anything in excess that I need, because I cannot predict the future. I mean, I don't know what happens tomorrow. But my question, a couple quick questions. I hope it doesn't cost me any money for the answers. You said you have 15 lawyers under you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And everybody doing different things, or all in real estate? No,
we have, we're set up kind of like a medical office. So if you have a corporation or an LLC, you go to this place. If you have a probate or estate planning matter, you go over here. If you've got litigation, you go there. If you have an eviction, you go there. So we have lawyers that specialize in very, very specific things. I happen to do real estate all day, every day, all premised on one thing.
Okay, so yeah, I have a couple clients that they're looking to write their wills, so I want to make sure I can refer it to your office.
Absolutely. Well, glad to put them in contact with the head of our estate planning group.
And for presenting the buyer or seller, do you have a set fee? For
yes, $600. $600 flat.
Okay, and do I talk to a assigned lawyer, or every day I call?
I'll have Phil. I'll have Phil put up my information or send it out to the group. You can also. Are you a member of DealVault, Sam?
Yes.
If you go to the I don't know if it's called partners or vendor tab, and you go under attorneys. I think I'm the only attorney listed.
Oh, really? Good.
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much.
I didn't want any competition.
Yes. Thank you so much. I don't want to take your time. I'll reach out to you later on.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody want to jump in? Ron.
Gary, this is Ron Gregory. I didn't really have any questions, but I just wanted to thank you for your participation tonight. There's not a time that I listen to you that I don't learn a whole lot. And I just wanted to say thank you.
I appreciate that. My only person that doesn't appreciate my blathering on is my wife, I think.
That's normal.
Anyone else?
Okay, I'll ask you one more question since nobody else asking anything. Do the lawyers have any control on the title insurance? Is it something set by the title company?
Yeah. Absolutely. Great question. And so for those of you who are newer investors, this may not be something you know. It's a very dirty secret in Illinois, something that I'm very, very transparent on. So Illinois is an attorney state. There's only a half a dozen states in the United States that are. If you're in the Chicago metro area, which is basically anything north of I-80, all the way out to 57, so the Chicago metro, all the way up to Lake County. So all the area that we play in, attorneys are title agents for the title companies. And so what happens is when the seller's attorney orders title, they're compensated by the title company for the work they do. Theoretically, the parties don't pay any more or less for title insurance. The title insurance is all regulated by the Department of Financial Institutions, meaning that there are specific rates published by the state of Illinois that are charged for title insurance. However, because attorneys are title insurance agents. There are some attorneys, not a lot, but there are some attorneys who will actually increase title insurance premiums. So it's something you need to be cognizant of and aware of. As my clients buy and sell more properties, they get additional discounts on title insurance. But I see it all the time. There's a lot of attorneys out there, because there's too many attorneys in this world, that are sending leaflets to sellers, which is really a violation of the Code of Professional Responsibility, but I'm not the ethics police, saying that they'll do their closing for $100. And then next thing you know, there's like $5,000 or $6,000 worth of title insurance. Nobody questions any of that. So, I'm charging $600 on a sale, and maybe I make $1,500 total. Well, the guy that charged $100 made $4,000. So the consumer ends up losing in that situation. So title insurance is regulated by state. There's published rates that you can find on every title insurance company. Your attorney, in my opinion, should not be charging more than what is a published rate for a title company. And as you close more properties, I afford my clients discounts on the title insurance, because again, I use Fidelity and Chicago Title mostly. I use a lot of them, but I've got buying power because we do 1,600 closings a year. So if I go to the title company and a regular closing fee is $1,400, and I say, hey, I'm going to send you half my business, I want my closing fee to my customers to be $950. I'm automatically saving them $400 off the get-go, and it's no skin off of my teeth, and I can do that because if I give them half of my business, that's still more than 99% of attorneys, all of their business would equate to. So that's my long-winded answer to your question, Sam. Title insurance can fluctuate. You can negotiate that as investors, and I don't charge more than what's published, although there's a good minority of attorneys that do that, and I don't think it's proper.
Great, thank you.
Mike, you had your microphone on, or Ron, you got another question?
One quick question, Gary. Is this presentation being recorded by chance?
Phil said it was being recorded.
Okay. Can I go to DealVault and look at it again, or where would I go?
Phil, are you listening?
Yes, hello, Ronald. We will be sending replays to all of the attendees today.
Okay. Thank you very much, Phil. I appreciate it. Thank you, Gary.
No problem.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, Gary. So quick question. If I were to be a new to wholesaling / real estate investing in the Chicagoland area, what would be the best place to kind of start?
Under the Illinois Real Estate Brokerage Act in 2019, they amended the act to provide that if you're going to be engaged in the business of selling, offering for sale, offering to purchase, soliciting, or otherwise engaging in any real estate activity, you have to have your brokerage license. So step one is to get your broker's license. Violation of that is a fine of up to $10,000 per occurrence. Occurrence is defined as any sort of offering. So if you sent 20 letters, that would be 10,000 times 20. So step one is to get your broker's license, and then hang your license with a brokerage that focuses exclusively on investments. Somebody like Frank Montreux with Keller Williams would be a good place to put your license because that's all Frank does. And then obviously, I'll help you with the fundamentals, the blocking and tackling of doing it. But you need to have your broker's license.
Okay, got it. Thank you very much. And typically, how long does that take to get your brokerage license?
I'm not a real estate broker. but I don't think it's like a class 7 weeks, or you can even do them online quicker, and then you got to pay a fee to the state and take a test. It's not, the only thing that's more prevalent than attorneys are real estate brokers. So it's not, the bar is not very high to get a broker's license. G.
Hi, Gary. Continuation to the question. If not into the like wholesaler, but as an investor, if we want to explore off-market
Okay, thank you
properties,
very much.
Hello. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah,
if we want
to explore, if we want to explore off-market, considering the foreclosure short sales coming in just for our own inventory, like building up rentals or flips, things like that, what would you suggest is a good place to look at to start learning how the wholesale, not wholesale, like short sale process works or probate works? Like, what would be a good resource to learn those information?
In terms of like learning how to find them?
How to work through them end to end, like how to find them. I know from ChicagoDealVault you can find the properties, but then once seller is motivated, if they want to buy, like what would be the next steps?
I'm not sure I'm totally following your question, but I would say that it's building your team, so you can find them through DealVault, but like work with the top people in the industry. Like, so a guy like Frank Montrow, who he's got 40 brokers on his team that are out there searching for these short sales. And then if you're an investor with them, he's going to hand deliver these because he has more opportunity or access to those off-market opportunities and the short sales than anybody else. So you just work with the right people, and then they're going to help you walk through the process, and then you're going to learn as you go along. You just build your team. Get real estate brokers like your Ryan Smiths, your Frank Montrose, an attorney like myself, and then you're going to learn as you go.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
So it's 7:30. If anybody has any last questions, speak now or forever hold your peace. And I'm not seeing any green lights come on. So we're going to say 5, 4, 3.
Hey, Gary. Yeah, we do have a question in chat. It's from
Okay.
Nick. He said, when the banks are going to be able to start filing new foreclosure cases in Cook County, Illinois. So when the banks are going to be able to start filing new foreclosure cases in Cook County, Illinois?
I thought that they started filing them again already, but then what is our eminent leader done recently? I've been in California out there with those crazy people the last 10 days, but I thought I saw something about Pritzker extending things again. So the moratorium was set to expire at the end of July. I left for California. I think I heard Pritzker extended it another 30 days maybe, or 60 days. I don't know if anybody knows, but that's something you could find out in Google. I haven't even talked to our litigators that represent banks. So I know we had probably 200 or 300 complaints ready to be filed that we just had to press a button and file them. So I don't know if those got filed last week or not. So I guess my answer, Nick, is I don't happen to know because I've been out of town. But it's gonna be very, 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 very soon. But again, once they open up that floodgate, we're still gonna be, 9 to 12 months before we see any product come through.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, Gary, for answering the question. I believe we don't have any other questions for now. So Yeah, any last message to our attendees, Gary?
Yeah, just G Davidson at CastleLaw.com. That's G Davidson, DAVIDSON at CastleLaw.com. You can also find my information on the tab on DealVault. I'm usually fairly accessible. I'll do after hours calls and whatnot. These last 5 weeks have been crazy because I've been in Maryland, New Jersey, New York, Virginia, and San Jose for my son's lacrosse. But I'm most of the times extremely accessible. So if you email that, my contact information's on the DealVault tab. And I'm glad to help you if you're a new investor and or someone who has experience. I'm glad to help anybody. At this point, my business is sort of on autopilot, so I actually have more time than the average attorney in a lot of ways because I have a full back office that processes the files. So that's all I got. Thanks, Phil.
Guys, I was just going to say real quick, Gary, the moratorium has been extended to August 31st.
Okay, thank you. I thought that was the case.
Yes, that is correct.
So, all right. Well, Phil, take it away.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Gary, for tonight. It is our pleasure to hear your insights, especially post-COVID, when it comes to real estate and what is going on with the economy. So, what you mentioned about hard work as well is so inspiring, as well as the people who will be losing homes and what we need to do. I am sure our attendees learned a lot from you today. I also posted your contact information in chat, so our members will be able to see and the attendees. So again, thank you so much, Gary. You rock, and you're such an inspiration.
Thanks, guys. I'm heading out.
Thank you.
Have a good night, everyone. Thank you again, Gary.
Thank you. By the way, I would like to share to you about Chicago DealVault, just for you to give an idea, to have an idea about how the system works. If you don't have access, I posted it in chat on how to avail 30-day free trial access. On your screen is Chicago DealVault portal. If you have not no access to it yet, so we provide leads from MLS, off market. We do have list of private lenders, cash buyers, area reports. So preferred partners, we provide a contact details, especially with Gary here. And if you open a property, you'll be able to see all of the information of the property. So if you avail the 30-day trial access, we'll give you a free training on how to use the system as well. Also, I'd like to invite you to join our DealVault Academy, where we have both inner circle groups. We have cash flow inner circle and wholesale inner circle. So we do have meetings every week. So one meeting for cash flow inner circle and one meeting for wholesale inner circle. So both of these inner circle groups focuses on trainings, tutorials, as well as with how you're going to find deals and all that. It's a step-by-step process that Hugo himself is going to discuss to you every training and meeting of each week. So feel free to just also avail to attend our inner circle meetings. I also included in the chat the link to avail the inner circle groups. So everyone, I would like to thank you for joining and attending tonight's meeting. So it's been a pleasure to be your host for tonight. Have a great evening, everyone.